What if I told you Alex Eala was making noise at the US Open before she even played a single point? No dramatic three-set thriller, no match-winning forehand, no viral celebration. The buzz started somewhere completely different: fashion. A signature Nike shirt carrying Eala's name reportedly disappeared from stock within minutes. A royal blue US Open look had Filipino fans talking, and then came another attention-grabbing development: a VIP invitation connected to New York Fashion Week. Suddenly, the 21-year-old Filipina wasn't being discussed only as one of tennis's fastest-rising players. She was becoming part of a much bigger conversation involving sports, fashion, culture, endorsements, and the enormous fan base following her every move. The timing couldn't have been better. Eala arrived in New York with the US Open approaching and plenty of expectations surrounding her tennis. But almost immediately, the conversation expanded beyond rankings and tournament draws. According to the source story, New York Fashion Week had extended a VIP invitation to her, placing Eala near one of the biggest stages in global fashion. For an athlete whose profile had grown dramatically in a relatively short period, it felt like another sign that people outside tennis were beginning to pay attention. But the fashion conversation had already started before that invitation. Nike unveiled a royal blue court slam dress priced at $140. The outfit featured basketball-inspired mesh panels along the sides, along with sharp black and white details that contrasted with the dominant blue. From a performance standpoint, it was modern tennis apparel. For plenty of Filipino supporters, though, it represented something more. The blue immediately reminded some fans of Philippine national sports teams: basketball, volleyball, soccer. The connection was easy for supporters to make. Whether every detail was intentionally designed as a national reference wasn't really the point. Fans saw Eala wearing that color on an international stage and connected it to home. And that emotional connection is becoming an important part of Eala's appeal. She isn't simply representing herself when she competes. Every time she steps onto a major court, millions of Filipino supporters see someone from their country occupying a space where they haven't historically seen many Filipino tennis players. Then Nike took things another step further. Eala received her own black Nike court t-shirt, reportedly selling for $42. It wasn't overloaded with graphics. The front used understated floral accents, while the back featured Eala's name surrounded by floral artwork, along with Nike branding and the familiar "Just Do It" message. When Eala saw it, her reaction seemed almost like that of a fan herself. She shared the shirt with her approximately 1.8 million Instagram followers, using exploding head emojis and essentially telling everyone, "I have my own shirt, you know what to do." Well, apparently her supporters knew exactly what to do. According to the source material, the shirt sold out on Nike's website within minutes, not days. Not after an entire US Open run. Minutes. That immediately became part of the larger Eala conversation, especially after fashion writer Jessica Schiffer reportedly noted that Eala's merchandise had disappeared while products connected with established stars, including Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, and Arna Sabalenka, were still available. Now, there's an important distinction here. A sellout by itself doesn't necessarily mean one athlete is commercially bigger than another. Inventory quantities, production numbers, regional availability, and demand forecasts can all affect how quickly merchandise disappears. But even with that context, selling through a signature product that quickly says something, people aren't merely watching Alex Eala, they want something associated with her. And that's where sports marketing gets interesting. The biggest athletes don't simply attract viewers. They build communities. Those communities follow them from tournament to tournament, engage with their social media, buy their merchandise, and sometimes even adopt pieces of their identity. What made Eala's shirt story even more interesting was that some people weren't impressed with the design. There were complaints that it looked too simple. Some supporters wondered why Nike hadn't gone bigger or incorporated even more Filipino-inspired imagery. Others argued that a rising star with Eala's cultural importance deserved something more distinctive. Yet, according to the source, while that debate was happening, the shirt was selling out. That contradiction says plenty about the strength of the connection. Fans could criticize the design and still desperately want the product, because for many of them, the attraction wasn't necessarily the shirt itself, it was Alex Eala. And Nike had already spent years building cultural details into her tennis looks. At Wimbledon in 2025, Eala received a custom hair accessory inspired by the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines. The following year, according to the source, her Wimbledon visor carried a Tagalog message centered around growth and refusing to stop. Those details weren't random decorations. They connected an athlete competing on some of the most famous courts in the world, with the country watching her from thousands of miles away. Eala has talked about how much that means to her. She described wearing cultural elements as sentimental and said that carrying parts of her heritage onto court made those moments feel more personal. She also spoke about how beautiful and confident she felt wearing the sampaguita-inspired piece. That confidence matters, because when an athlete feels that her clothing represents something authentic rather than simply functioning as sponsorship inventory, fans can sense the difference. And then came New York. A VIP Fashion Week invitation fit almost perfectly into the trajectory Eala was already following. She wasn't suddenly being inserted into fashion for a publicity stunt. Her style, cultural symbolism, and merchandise were already generating discussion. Fashion Week simply brought that crossover into sharper focus, and there's a huge difference between trying to force your way into another cultural space and being invited into it. For Eala, the invitation suggested that people were noticing. Her commercial momentum wasn't limited to Nike either. Marriott Bonvoy named her a brand ambassador and made her the face of its Tennis the World campaign across the Asia-Pacific region. The company highlighted qualities such as authenticity, inspiration, and her connection to the region. Put all these pieces together, and the picture becomes clearer. Nike merchandise, a signature shirt, Filipino-inspired fashion details, New York Fashion Week attention, a major international hospitality partnership. This is why people have started using the phrase Eala Effect. But here's the part that keeps the story grounded. None of this means much if the tennis doesn't support it, and according to the source material, Eala entered this US Open period ranked number 18 in the world, a historic position for Philippine tennis. She was also expected to receive Grand Slam seeding for the first time. That would represent another milestone in a season already filled with them. The source credits Eala with capturing her maiden WTA title in Washington, including a victory over Jessica Pegula in the final. It also describes a Wimbledon run highlighted by a major victory over defending champion Iga Świątek, along with 7 wins against top 10 opponents during the season. Think about the speed of that progression. Not long ago, the conversation was about whether Eala could successfully navigate qualifying and earn opportunities against the sport's elite. Now the conversation has changed. Where will she be seated? How deep can she go? Can she beat another top 10 player? Can she become a genuine Grand Slam contender? And apparently, what will she wear while doing it? That last question might sound trivial, but modern sports doesn't work the way it did decades ago. Fashion and athletic performance increasingly overlap. Serena Williams understood that. Roger Federer understood it. Naomi Osaka understands it. Coco Gauff understands it. When an athlete becomes culturally relevant, people start watching everything. Eala appears to be entering that territory. On August 27th, according to the source, she walked onto Arthur Ashe Stadium for the Stars of the Open charity exhibition alongside other young players, including João Fonseca, Iva Jovic, and Lerner Tien. Arthur Ashe isn't just another tennis court. It's the largest tennis stadium in the world, with roughly 23,000 seats, and one of the defining stages of American sports. For a young player, simply walking into that environment can feel enormous. For Eala, it came while attention around her was already exploding. The source also describes crowds gathering around her practice sessions, and organizers responding to the demand generated by her supporters. That is another piece of the phenomenon. Filipino fans don't quietly blend into the background when Eala plays. They bring flags, they bring noise, they bring energy. A normal tennis match can suddenly feel like a home event. And that kind of support can become a genuine competitive advantage, especially somewhere like New York, where crowd energy can completely change the atmosphere of a match. And it explains why the Eala Effect is about much more than merchandise. It's tennis, it's representation, it's fashion, it's culture, it's commercial appeal. Most importantly, it's community. Eala doesn't have to choose between those worlds. At this stage of her career, they're beginning to reinforce one another. Winning creates attention. Attention creates fans. Fans create demand. Demand attracts brands. Brands create greater visibility. And greater visibility brings even more people back to tennis. That cycle is incredibly powerful when it develops naturally. Now comes the difficult part. The US Open doesn't care how quickly your shirt sells. The player standing across the net doesn't care whether you received a VIP invitation. Arthur Ashe Stadium doesn't hand out victories because thousands of people are waving your country's flag. Once the first ball is struck, Eala still has to perform. And maybe that's exactly what makes this story worth following. The off-court attention is getting bigger, but so are the expectations on court. The royal blue dress gets people talking. The signature shirt reportedly sells out. The cultural details inspire Filipino supporters. Fashion Week comes calling. Global companies want partnerships. But eventually, Alex Eala picks up her racket, walks onto court, and everything comes back to the game that created these opportunities in the first place. So as New York turns its attention toward the US Open, the question is no longer whether people know Alex Eala's name. They do. The question is what happens next. Can she turn this extraordinary wave of attention into another historic tournament? Can she handle the pressure that comes with becoming both an athlete and a cultural figure? And if the Eala Effect is already this powerful at 21, How big could it become if she starts challenging for the biggest trophies in tennis? New York may be the next stage, but judging by the momentum surrounding Alex Eala, it probably won't be the last.